Sorry.
Fill it on both sides. You know what I mean? Everybody good? Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. We're here to talk about a big settlement in the Stone Academy matter. Before I talk about the settlement, let me just say that as I was preparing for this press conference this morning and finalizing the settlement, you have to go through the facts. You have to review how far we've come after basically 2 years of aggressive litigation. And going over the facts again and talking to the team, it still shocks me. You know, the stories of these students, mostly women, many immigrants, many people of color, women who had other jobs, who were trying to fit in nursing and practical education, who were trying to put food on the table and work other jobs and care for their kids and care for their families, just to get a chance to change the trajectory of their lives, for themselves and their families, just to move it 10 degrees in one direction or another to make life better for themselves and their kids and their families. And that's what this is all about. And that's why it's so hard to read again the facts of how terribly Stone Academy and its owners shortchanged the students and really let them down. I'm not going to relitigate all the facts. You've heard about how students were told they would get practical training they didn't get, how they were told they could prepare for the certification, the NCLEX exam, and they weren't ready, and how millions of dollars were taken from these students, and they did not get the education that they were promised. Before I get going, I want to thank 3 educators who did everything they could for the students who are here with us today. Siobhan Russell, who's an instructor, Lauren Kuzar, who was a campus director, and Lisa Palmer, who was the director of nursing. These 3 instructors were trying to do everything they could for these students. They were there in the middle of it, and it was with their help and guidance that we were able to understand and focus our investigation and really get to the settlement that we're here to announce today. So today, the state of Connecticut is announcing that it is engaging in a settlement with Stone Academy, its owners, and the class plaintiffs, the nurses who are represented by private counsel, the nursing students, who are represented by private counsel. This settlement is a major settlement of $5 million, the lion's share of which is going to go to students and student relief, subject to their attorney's fee. So let me just focus on that for a second. $5 million is a lot of money. It's a big settlement in a case like this, and part of that is why we went so hard, we were so aggressive, because we wanted to make sure that we got as much money for students. Normally, in a consumer protection action in a case like this, the state attorney general and all of us, we're in a law enforcement posture, and our role is to recover fines and penalties. And very often, in these big settlements, millions of dollars will go to fines and penalties, which are recovered by the state pursuant to law and go into the general fund. Not in this case. In this case, as Attorney General, I have exercised my discretion, and the state will not take any money, not one penny for fines and penalties. $150,000 will go to exam prep that will be administered by the state, but the state will not recover any money for the general fund, because I have insisted from the beginning that this is about the students. It's about those families. It's about those women I just talked about. It's about helping them put their lives together. Frankly, just reading about them again, it's heartbreaking. And as we begin the new year, we want to make sure that we do everything we can to give them a fresh start, to resume their educations, to improve their careers and improve their lives and the lives of their families. So that's why Connecticut is not taking any money for the general fund. We'll dedicate $150,000 to exam prep, and the lion's share of this money will go to students and student relief subject to their returns. On top of that, we have negotiated very significant injunctive terms. What I mean by that is Stone Academy and its owners are going to be subject to very strict requirements, and they're going to have to do things to make this right. Number one, Joseph Bierbaum, the operator of Stone Academy and Hare Academy, and one of the owners here, is barred from the business of higher education in Connecticut for 5 years. If anyone in Stone Academy's ownership wants to open or operate another for-profit school in Connecticut, they have to notify the Office of the Attorney General first. The Department of Public Health is dropping its licensure investigations based solely on a nurse's attendance at Stone Academy. This was an important provision because there was a cloud on nursing students and their licensure. So we're going to remove that cloud. This settlement provides for remedial programs and training and the potential for students to complete their studies at Griffin Hospital, the Griffin Hospital School of Allied Health Careers. We're still working out details on how that's going to work. But on top of the $150,000 for exam prep, we're going to give students a chance to resume their training and their studies at Griffin. This settlement also provides that the federal lawsuit against the state and the individual defendants will be withdrawn with prejudice, which means they can't bring the lawsuit again against the state or any state officials. And I want to thank the Office of Higher Education and the Department of Public Health and everyone who has worked really hard to try to help these students. And this settlement reflects our understanding and recognition of the fact that the state did everything that it could, and that the folks at the Office of Higher Education and the Department of Public Health were focused on the students, and they were focused on public health, and they were focused on getting more nurses out there into our state's hospitals and healthcare providers. And that was always our focus, and we did nothing wrong in trying to do that. If we were aggressive, that's our job. You know, if we held Stone Academy accountable, it's because that's our job. And I want to commend them for taking that job so seriously and for pursuing Stone as aggressively as we have. I want to thank our team here. I should note before I do that, this is a preliminary settlement. This is an agreement in principle that's being filed with the court today, which is why I'm making the announcement. So it's being filed today with the court. It's still subject to approval by the class members. This is a class action on the private plaintiff's side. So there's one case that was brought by nursing students. It's a private class action. They still have to approve. They have about 30 days, and it's subject to court approval. But subject to their approval, this settlement will go into effect, and we will get money out to students. Let me just close by saying, throughout this process, the focus for me and for all of us has been on the students and their families. This settlement today, after 2 years, I wish it would have been quicker. But the reason why we're settling and the reason why we're concluding this is because this is the best way for me and for all of us to get money to students, and to get money for test prep, and to get money for people to resume their training and their career goals and aspirations. This is the best and quickest and most complete way to provide relief to students. And that's why we're resolving it here today. Let me thank our excellent team that has worked really hard There have been a couple times when they've come back to me and we had a deal, and I said, not good enough. We've had to go back. And so, sorry, but that's my job. But these guys have done such incredible work, led by Joe Gasser, Assistant Attorney General Joe Gasser, Kate Hagen-Bornstein, and Addison Kilty, and then legal investigator Kaylee Silva, paralegal specialist Megan King, and then Deputy Associate Attorney General Mike Wertheimer, Chief of the Consumer Protection Section, and Alina Kripling-Goldstein, Sean Ruchik, Laura Thurston, and Deputy Associate Attorney General Dan Shapiro, Chief of the Health and Education Section. I will note that it was part of part of my vision when I became Attorney General, and that's been my leadership team's goal in the 6 years, beginning 7th year as Attorney General, that we bring teams together and that they work across sections, and that we work as cross-disciplinary teams. And the fact that Mike and Dan teamed up and brought their teams together is entirely why we're able to resolve this week, to combine their joint expertise and making sure that we produce the best possible result for students. So with that, I'm happy to take questions.
I've talked to many STONE students over the last 2 years or so, and many of them place a lot of belief with what happened while these lecturers on the state. That's why they sue the state. Is the state taking any accountability or making any changes with this settlement?
The state did everything they could for students. Let me remind you and anybody who would lodge that criticism how we got here. We got here because the Office of Higher Education brought the heat. We got here because we started asking questions. Tim Larson, OAG, the state started saying, hey, Stone, you're not meeting your obligations to the students, particularly with respect to practical training. Okay, and we brought the feds in to also bring additional pressure and accountability to Stone. So we're here because the state did its job. We're not the wrongdoers. The state never did anything wrong. The state didn't run a school. It's not our job to run a school. It's our job to regulate and to hold people who run schools, particularly for-profit schools, accountable. So if we did our job and we held them accountable, how is that our fault? It's not.
In terms of accountability, how was the 5 years?
So in any case like this, right, settlement is a negotiation. And this is a very significant settlement and a very good result for students. And as I said before, I wanted to get to a place where I could announce, frankly, millions of dollars for students. And in order to make that happen, this is a settlement that I'm able to negotiate that provides relief to students as soon as possible.
Is the $5 million from the state's lawsuit, or is it from the class action lawsuit from the students?
It's combined. It's a combined resolution. Our lawsuit, the private class action plaintiffs, all getting money from the Stone defendants. And so just so we're clear, it's not one lawsuit. It's multiple cases being mashed together, right? Being put together, and then all of those cases will be resolved.
Okay, just as the way the press made it sound like the money was specifically like the state got the $5 million, so I'm just trying to figure out which kind of lawsuit was the money that comes from.
So, to be fair, the class action plaintiffs and their counsel have also worked hard and have been aggressive. But we've been really aggressive. And this team, we've not only used our legal resources and the resource of the state's largest law firm to bring accountability for Stone students, but I've obviously used our platform here to call attention to what happened to those students, how wrong it was to bring additional pressure to bear on the defendants. So there's a federal case, there's a state case, and it's all essentially being combined and resolved in one package. And as part of that, $5 million will be paid out of the pockets of Stone's owners.
And as far as your especially with the 5 years not higher education, he's still the president of PAIR. PAIR has never started, it's supposed to start in the fall, that's being postponed, they have an OAG hearing in February. What's
So you'll have to ask OHE, I don't know what the status is of PAIR, that's not within the ambit of my investigation of
Here was a
Stone
different
Academy.
lawsuit.
Well,
So
and
they were
Yeah.
kind of.
to the extent that there was money that was transferred to PAIR that should have gone to Stone, yes, they were part of it. But in terms of PAIR's operations, that's not what we're talking about.
And do the defendants, do they have $5 million?
I believe that they do.
And
I wouldn't agree if they couldn't pay more.
And how soon do you think students might see some relief, whether it's financial?
First of all, they have to approve the settlement, number one. And then number two, what's gonna happen is, their counsel is going to hire a third-party administrator. And the third-party administrator is gonna administer claims. So to be fair, there are a lot of details to be worked out about how the money will be distributed and how claims will be made and how those claims, or how awards will be awarded, under that system. And that's really gonna be administered by the nursing student's lawyer, and the class planners.
Why wasn't the nursing student's lawyer or any of the students here are invited here today?
You'll have to ask them.
You would have had to invite them.
No, we did. You'll have to ask them. They wanted to file today, and as a result, I thought it was important for me to announce so that you understood what the state was doing today, and to explain and have a chance to chat with all of you about this settlement and what it means for students. And I assume that the students and their counsel will speak when they're ready to do so.
Also on the topic of the remedial studies at Griffin, when you talk about like resuming those studies, is that based off of the audit path from OHE and what credits were valid, or do all of these students have to start over? What's that going to look like?
The students are all at, one of the most challenging things about this whole process is the students were all at different phases at different points of their training. And so, one of the challenges is when you talk about relief, particularly money and financial relief, everybody's at a different place. And so this literally is, there's no one size fits all solution here. So I think what will happen is, they will take each student one at a time and figure out where people are, and do the best they can if they want to resume their studies, to figure out a pathway forward. If there are people who have to start again because they had really just gotten started, or were in the early phases of their training and really didn't get the training that they were promised. And there are people that were ready to take the exam, or who had taken the exam and failed because they weren't adequately prepared for the exam and want to go back and take a refresher or prepare again for the exam. So there's a whole spectrum of students, and we'll have to address them each on their individual circumstances.
Sorry, one last question.
Yeah, sure.
When I was trying to explain the different Stone lawsuits, to me, it was always like a trial of Stone students in the state, and there was a circle of lawsuits going on
Yes,
between.
that's fair.
We only have one point of the triangle here today. The terms haven't been filed even in court yet. How confident are you that this settlement will make its way through?
Well, I'm confident that they will file today, and I'm confident that the class plaintiffs' counsel will honor the terms of this settlement and the term sheet that we're filing with the court today. But I want to be careful and make clear that it has to be approved by the class. And so I don't want to speak for the class; they have to speak for themselves, and they'll do so in the next 30 days. But I wouldn't be here, obviously, if we didn't have an agreement. We have an agreement. And we have an agreement. Here's the key thing: we have an agreement to get $5 million to students. Not $5 million in fines and penalties. Not $5 million 10 years from now. Not some nebulous promise that Stone's going to make it right. They're going to make it right by paying $5 million, and that's a lot of money. And that's a lot of money that's going to go a long way to helping the students. And again, my motivation in standing here today and all along was to get to this point as quickly as I could, to get as much relief, as complete relief as I could in a situation where complete relief is impossible. But I wanted to do as much as I could for them and their families.
Last question for
Yeah.
me. When you're talking
Yes,
about
Sam.
this,
Oh, that's for me.
when you're talking about the complete relief, how close are you working with OHP and this loan forgiveness? I mean, even after these 2 years,
Oh.
students still have.
I should note, the Office of Attorney General has led the way in petitioning the U.S. Department of Education for loan discharges. That is still pending. I actually talked to the Secretary of Education last week about it personally. I didn't say that, I called him. If it doesn't get done by January 20th, I hope that Secretary McMahon, as a resident and native of Connecticut, will honor those requests and the administration discharge those loans. So we did that on our own, independent of anybody else.
Maybe the educators want to comment, students review, any,
Come on up, come on up.
what's your name?
Siobhan Russell, and I was an instructor at East Hartford for 3 years. I was there until the very last. Me and my instructor are really up to college. We just want the students, and I was still in touch with the students, that we did our very best. We knew that our academy was not, full academy providing a whole education. We went every day for the slides with us. We stayed late. We just helped our students. And I'm still in touch with students every day as an educator.
What are the students telling you about their next steps?
I have students that have passed their input, so they are LPN. They did have to go through the state required professional courses, and they are working as LPNs all throughout the state. I have students that are at the beginning, and so they have to go to Griffin and start from the beginning. I have students transfer to Griffin Tech, and so some of those students are going to be finished, and I still have students that come to my classes every day that are at different points of their education. So I still refer students to OHE and people at BPH that I've made contacts with. When I have students come to me and they say, I went to Stone, can you help me? I email the people at OHE and BPH, student by student, every time I encounter them.
What's your observation of ownership and how do they drop the ball?
Who's Stone Academy? Well, it started with lowering the standards of standards, and the director of nursing can talk about that more, but I was there from 2021 until the day they closed, which was Valentine's Day of 2023. So I saw very little, but lowering the standards and hiring people that weren't quite qualified was probably the beginning of a sinking ship. But the director of nursing was into that directly.
Would you like to discuss
Sorry.
it? Your name is,
My name is Lisa Palmer. I was the director of nursing for several years for all 3 campuses. Yes, as she said, they were lowering their standards, they were dropping class scores, they were letting people pass that should not pass because they wanted them in the system for money. So we stuck around and we stuck around, I stuck around because we did want to help the students and we knew something wasn't right. I finally left when the businessman, Mr. Beerbach stopped listening to the director of nursing on how to help these students. All of our, things that we wanted to do, things we wanted to help students with, we just not have.
anyone else? What are some of the other things you observed from the owner? Where did the owner fall short?
Just not necessarily on his own, but he was a businessman. I don't think he really understood how nursing works, how nursing schools work. He was in the business to make money. So when you have a group of nursing, educators that are saying, hey, let's do this, this is gonna get those students to pass, this is gonna, boost them up and become great nurses, and they just wouldn't listen.
All right, any more questions?
Is there a total number for the students that would be eligible for this meeting?
I don't have a total number. I think at one point, the numbers have shifted, right? We're roughly at around 1,000 students, right, that were impacted, plus or minus. But again, not everybody's in the same place, which is why this has been so hard to the settlement's been so hard to construct, and the league has been so hard to construct, and we still have some